Gong time.
That was loud.
This is
Okay, we are now live, I believe. Let me get everything set up correctly here. So we are now live. My name is Frank Mocerino from the Ohm Store, and I am here and joined by Ben Irons of Zen with Ben, of the Ohm Store Sound School, of several orchestras, of an incredible individual practitioner opportunity if you happen to be in or near Boulder, Colorado. Ben, welcome.
Thank you so much.
And I did not say lead instructor of Gong School.
There we go.
Ben Irons, lead instructor of Gong School. Ben, welcome.
Thank you.
You are welcome. And so people are already joining. So for those joining us live, it is an absolute pleasure to be able to host you here on this Friday morning, afternoon, depending on where you're coming from. And to those of you that are watching this as a recorded version in the future, also welcome. The invitation, though, for now, though, is that the reason that Ben and I are going to have this conversation in real time is so that our live attendees have the opportunity to participate in the conversation. So, this is going to be a conversation with Ben and I, and we're going to be primarily exploring two topics. First, we're going to be diving deeply into the gong as a musical instrument, petting the kitty. We're going to talk a little bit because we have so many friends and followers who play singing bowls, but maybe new to the gong. We'll talk a little bit about how the sound properties of a gong are totally separate and distinct from those of something like a singing bowl. And then we will also touch on the opportunity to learn from Ben through Gong School. And so, for those of us that are here live, welcome and feel free to drop comments, questions, topics for conversation that you would like to see Ben talk about into the chat. So I'm doing double duty here. In addition to like talking out of my mouth and conversing with Ben, I'm going to keep my right eye on the chat. And so if somebody brings up a very interesting question, which I'm sure will happen because I see many of our Sound School alumni here, like Bob and Heike and Sandra and Randy and Julie. It's so good to see you all. So please, if you have questions for Ben, drop them into the chat and I will surface them for Ben. And so, Ben, why don't we get started here and we'll start with some basics. For those, even though I see that this is like a friends and family event so far, for those that don't yet know you, would you just offer just a little bit of an introduction for yourself about who you are, what your experience level is, and what brings you here?
Great. Yeah, thank you. So my name is Ben Irons. I'm based in Boulder, Colorado, and my primary focus during the day is vibrational sound therapy. Although I have an extensive background in the performance arts for percussion on the classical Western side. I'm a certified meditation instructor in the Vipassana lineage. I've got a hypnotherapy board certification. I've studied with a lot of people, and I geek out on these things. But basically, I've been really fortunate to spend my whole career at a really high level of percussion playing and experienced my own degrees of performance anxiety and stage anxiety, sort of mental health and burnout issues, and so things that are prevalent at a high level, at a competitive level in the music realm, and just like athletes. And all of these worlds came together for me and have now presented themselves in a lovely little package. So I spend the bulk of my day working with singing bowls. I've got a line of mallets from Dragonfly Percussion. I've been involved in collaborating with them for mallets with this instrument as well. So I've got my medium soft mallet here is the first one that I designed. And yeah, that's the one. And it was made for students, honestly. And
Yes.
I was working for a corporate meditation center in Phoenix. And as I was watching these yogis play the gong, and I hadn't been in a sound bath before, but I'd spent my whole life playing percussion. Like literally, I just turned 40 and I've spent 30 years behind a drum. So it's going to be wild when I get older and older. I'm like, oh my God, 7/8 of my life has been practicing. Like,
Yeah.
I hope it was worth it. I don't know. But Yeah, I was watching these yogis play and just realized that, so while we talk about intention frequently, or I hope you do in the wellness community in your wellness sphere, and this word intention had come up several times in this meditation center, the way that they were approaching the instrument was completely divorced from any mindfulness. So the malice didn't make any sense for what I was watching, for the context and the way that we play. And so this kind of set me out on this really snobby Western kind of mission to elevate the sound around me and share what we consider, kind of day one stuff at the orchestra. But it makes such a big difference, and trying to catch up that kind of Eastern track of playing with this instrument, and allowing it to cement, if we work with these skills, and my goal with this is to do this in a progressive way through Gong School, present you with the information and the exercises in a progressive way that empowers you to be as intuitive as you would like to go in your sessions, because it sounds like that's where everyone is like ultimately wanting. And I don't know if it's out of ignorance or out of laziness, but if you can find these, if I can help share and we can work on some of these skills underneath, they will help support you and set you up for success if you choose to go full intuitive, whatever the outlet is for you with this instrument, whether it's a personal practice, if it's just curiosity, if you're a musician, a teacher, a yogi, just a gong nerd like me, a composer, if you want to run off and be an aesthetic somewhere in the mountains, great. We'll get you the skills to go do that.
I love that. So before I'm going to ask you about the gong as an instrument, Ben, but I see Debbie said, "Can we see Ben?" So I'm going to ask the question back. Can you all see Ben? Because I
I
want to make sure that you can see Ben.
I mean, my camera's on.
Yeah,
Frank and I can see each other.
I can see you guys, and it looks like now I can see Ben and myself in the Facebook window. But if you guys that are following along with us live, if you would just confirm for me that you can indeed see Ben. Okay, Julian Lynn said yes. Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure that we don't go this whole time and then at the end everyone's like, "Oh yeah, it was just Frank talking and we couldn't see."
Yeah, if you can't see me, just imagine an egg with glasses and a ginger beard, and that's pretty much all you're missing.
And that's Ben. And now you've got okay, but it looks like everyone can see everyone can see us. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to handle that item of business because actually we learned so much from our capstone project submissions during sound school is that so many people get to the end of theirs and they realize that they didn't record or something. Uh,
Yeah,
so we will learn from all of our experiences in that. Okay, Ben. So as we can see here, because the Ohm Store has primarily, for the first 9 years of its existence as an organization, been focused on the making and then the education around playing instruments like the singing bowl. Yes, that incredible Naga singing bowl that you have right there. Instruments like that. And so before we fully go into the gong, maybe you can just share a little bit like how are the gong and the singing bowl related or not? Are they siblings? Are they cousins? What are the distinctions that we can see in the sound characteristics possible from singing bowls and gongs?
yeah. I mean, definitely, I categorize them in my mind more. I organize them more similarly. They're both bronze instruments primarily, or some sort of bronze composite. So being an alloy of primarily bronze with some other minerals mixed in. So singing bowls primarily bronze and copper with a little bit of tin, and gongs as well. When you get into those silver nickel instruments, there isn't. It's a misnomer. There is no silver. It just looks silver, but you're adding zinc into that alloy as well, and that also changes the properties of the sound. But yeah, very very similar in that sense. So we've got this is ultimately depends on the size and the style and your mallet, and I know that if it can get a little frustrating when people ask questions and I say yes, no, maybe, but it totally depends. So if I give you an answer that's yes, no, maybe, it's not that the question is invalid. It's just we have to maybe tweak the question to get a better clarifier there.
Yeah.
But if we've got a small pedestal bowl, a naga bowl, like Frank said here, and this is a fourth octave F, you can tell just by the size. We could assume. I mean, maybe we don't want to assume. We can assume that this instrument will be maybe higher in pitch and softer, and maybe not quite up to what this powerhouse can do. And in this case, that's a pretty fair assumption. But to give you an idea, now, while this instrument has overtones present, you primarily hear one pitch. You hear that fundamental F, and you can get some other tones out of there depending on the mallets. We don't need to talk about that. That's for sound school. You can learn about it there. We're going to talk about the gong. So the gong, similarly made out of bronze, but depending on the instrument, may or may not have a fundamental kind of focused tone. The one behind me here is a pretty broad spectrum of sound, quite a bit deeper. But if we listen again, I mean, I like adjectives a lot. So we're going to talk about this. You will always hear me talk about this as a musician. The adjectives, the way that we're thinking about the sounds we're trying to create and kind of express and go for. In my mind, when I hear this bowl, out of colors or timbres, it's not chocolate, it's not vanilla, it's not crystal, it's not mud, but it's a very caramelly sound to me. It's very luscious, very velvety almost, but a little heavier than velvet. Velvet to me has a little bit of air to it. So now we start to kind of split hairs, right? So I'm still talking about the singing bowl. I get it, but okay, so that in my mind is a little bit more caramelly, right? So if you think of a crystal bowl, it's a little bit more crystalline. It seems obvious, but it's good to start to think about it in these terms. Now, the gong, on the other hand, so immediately a lot more sound, a lot darker, I would call this instrument. It's got kind of a rain cloud with it, depending on how you use it. It's got some rolling thunder, Texas flood, man. That's what we got in here. And sometimes I hear a little electric guitar sneak through. And so, depending on whether or not that's what I'm trying to create, that's something that I'm thinking about. And that was just in one playing zone. So there are many, this whole thing is your blank canvas. So if I move on that instrument, you can hear the sound is quite a bit different just on one instrument. So you have a lot of give as an artist, as a presenter, as a facilitator, as a practitioner, to work with, to kind of pull out different tones. While we can do this with the singing bowls, it's a lot. They chunk out in a lot bigger columns. You kind of get like really thick gears and not the teeny tiny minutia gears, all these little semitones that you have in these instruments.
Yeah.
Now, is this universal? Absolutely not. It's broadly universal, but every instrument is completely unique to itself. So if I lined up 100 of these 32-inch, what we call a chow style, CHAU, tam tam, so that gets technical too. But this type of instrument, if I lined up 100 of these next to each other and played them all, not a single one would be like the one next to it. So it is a very personal process, and you do want to try to spend time with that instrument ahead of time.
Would you talk about maybe now the different types, styles of gong possible? Because even just like the three that are in picture are totally different,
Yeah,
and one of them is a different material.
yeah, different alloys, different styles depending on the region and their history. So this instrument, again, bronze instrument, comes from the Bronze Age. So I know we're getting into that age of Aquarius, and we've got quartz and everything. It's in our phones and our watches and our bowls. I am still a Bronze era caveman, I guess. And so I like all my instruments made out of bronze. So, depending on which region you're from and, the way that you were introduced to the gong might be indicative of what you see more prevalently. So I came out of this orchestral background where, for us, this style of instrument that's from Wuhan in China, famous for other exports, if we want to call it that, this instrument is sort of our universal instrument at the orchestra, and this is a type of instrument called a tam-tam, TAM-TAM. And the tam-tam is a subcategory of a gong. So all tam-tams are gongs, but not all gongs are tam-tams. So in our Western lens, from an interpretive standpoint, so as percussionists, we're presented with music, And composers don't always know our area of expertise, and they try. They'll throw us a bone. Hey, we're going to throw in some gong here. But in our world, gong is a pitched instrument, like the singing bowl. I think a really classic example, I don't have one here with me at the moment, is that what we call a nipple gong. That's a colloquialism. It's basically they hammer out the center of this instrument. So there's a big bulb on the front. They call it a boss stroke or a stroke boss. We just call it a nipple. And so those are typically tuned to a specific fundamental, and that is the primary pitch that you get. They tend to have a really thick lip, what we call this bend on the side when they fold the plate back. This is the plate. This is the face. There's so many little slang terms that just kind of come out when you work with this instrument. So the tam tam is not a pitched instrument. It has an indefinite spectrum of sound. And so if you tried to sing along, you would sing along with none of it and all of it simultaneously, which is what makes it so cool. We love this at the orchestra because we're constantly playing in different tonal centers. And so if we have instruments that do not lock us into a tonal center, it's much easier for us to fluidly move with the music as it's rolling. It also lets us double dip in our inventory without having to replace an instrument for every single piece. But sometimes we get written apart. We don't know if it's actually a gong or a tam tam. We have to make those decisions for ourselves. So this is just one style. This is, in my mind, the more prevalent view. The more prevalent instrument. The other type that you see most often is going to be over Frank's right shoulder, and it's that silver nickel style. And these are more prominent in Europe, is kind of more where they came out from. The main difference is that they've added the nickel into the alloy in addition to the rest of it. Like, this is just the bronze itself. These plates, like the singing bowls, are all handmade. They're hand hammered. They started as a smelted composite of ore that has to be worked and worked and worked. These instruments are typically a prefabricated sheet that are cut out, stamped out, and then finished by hand in a variety of ways. And so all of that affects the sound. Every little hammer mark, every little lathing, there we go, that's the term, all of that affects the sound because the way that the sound moves through the gong that sound wave will hit every single divot and mogul and line, and that causes it to rumble and roll and clash into other joining harmonics, and that's what makes this instrument so interesting. And what I've found is that because of the power of this instrument, I've really sat since kind of working on my gong school syllabus and thought about like what is it that's so different for me about this instrument versus singing bowls. And I found that when I'm playing a singing bowl, I have in a meditation, I have found myself kind of in an open koan riddle, finding where's the center of this sound. Just as I'm listening and breathing, where's the middle? Where's it all coming from? Is it coming from here? Is it coming from here? Is it from the bowl? Is it over there? Is it in Frank's room? I have no idea. With this instrument, I have found myself asking, where is the edge? Where's the boundary? This thing goes forever, and you just get kind of a wall of sound that comes off of it. And that's one of the things I've been really enjoying playing with, that yin and yang of like center and boundary between these two instruments.
Yeah, and so I think it's worth noting, like, for something like I'm just like looking around here for an example. I'm not going to play it though, but like something like this will have an incredible range of hertz that it exhibits if you put something like this through a sound spectrum analyzer. I mean, this is approximately an 8.5-inch bowl, so the low fundamental is probably like 130 or so. I haven't measured that one, but it's like 130. And then if I ran it through a sound spectrum analyzer, it might go up to like 500, 600. And then it would also show things that went up to the 1,000, but it wouldn't be like totally apparent to my ears that that was happening. A gong, how does that compare to a gong, right? So like that's a wide-ish spectrum. A gong is
Yeah, it's going to be like 20 hertz to 20,000. It's basically our whole range of hearing. Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. Would you repeat again, just so I want to make sure everyone catches that, the koan that you ask yourself about a singing bowl versus a gong?
Yeah, and this is one of those intuitive pieces, so I can't say that there's any like philosophical truth here other than just someone who spends a lot of time in reflection with these instruments. As I'm sitting in my meditations with a singing bowl, I find myself trying to find the center of the sound and maybe the center of my own sound. And that's one of the principles of nada yoga, right? Is you try to find like where is my vibration emanating from. So when I'm working with the singing bowl, I really find myself asking, well, where's the center of this sound? Where, can I pinpoint it? And when I'm working with the gong, I've noticed it sort of flips. I find myself as I'm playing and sitting with that sound and those reverberations, like, where's the boundary? Like, how far does it get away from me? Finding the center is not so difficult, I think, with this, because it's like literally sitting in front of me. And I'm like, there's the center. I can feel the center. It's right here.
Yes. Okay. So did everyone? Yes, everyone's getting that. Bob is saying the sense of scale is so different between gongs and bowls physically and sonically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something, like, I know the sound school had talked a lot about, like, there are so many questions about recording these instruments.
Yeah.
Something that we have to keep in mind is that because of the scale and that depth of sound, when we try to capture these instruments too, that physical sound wave sometimes is 6 or 8 feet wide before it completes its own cycle. And so making sure that we're even setting up our own recording equipment at appropriate distances to catch a true gong cycle of sound.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you talk about Ben a little bit, like when I so and by the way, everyone, I'm just a lot of the conversation right now is just kind of like we're helping people understand separate or distinctions between singing bowls and gongs, only because that's kind of the frame of reference that we're coming from as an organization. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the case that a conversation around gongs includes a conversation around singing bowls. It's just the lens that we're bringing to the world. And so that's what we're looking out at. With a singing bowl, Ben, for me, from our lens, it's easy to imagine that I take this incredible singular bowl that's rich in overtones, that is velvety, that is easy listening, and I go and I meditate with this.
Mm-hmm.
Would you talk about like if there's someone out there who has never experienced a gong much, what can it look like for their use case to be? Is there similar practice, solo individual practice with a gong in the same way that there would be with something like a singing bowl?
Yeah, and I would make the case that gongs have been more prevalent in their presence for that use historically. Um, uh, just, and again, it depends on the region and where they're coming from. So historically, these instruments are used for all manner of things, and so including communication over long distances, and to help sort of empower rituals, and to, depending on parts of the area, maybe for shamanic possession type rituals and things. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's all over the board. What we might use this instrument for in our folk kind of traditional heritages, and one of them from the Chinese kind of history is using them to display your family's nobility or prominence. And so if you had like a dragon engraved on, that would indicate a certain level within society, but a certain number of talons on that dragon might also be like, this is an emperor's gong. And so even just having this instrument displayed in a room has this sort of folklore and this myth about bringing out and putting out this energy that just kind of commands the room. When I think about Indiana Jones, right, in the Temple of Doom, there are
Yes.
so many things in that movie, but the one thing that always stands out to me is that I never forget that gong
Yeah.
at the beginning, and the guy gets
Yeah.
out the Tommy gun, and India's running behind it. He's like, oh, the poor gong. But really, they didn't need that gong in there. It was all for the status of that restaurant and the patrons there. And so anyway, so similar properties with the singing bowl as this instrument, so we can bring a level of sacred presence to it. I think because it's really easy to fake your skill on loud sounds. It takes, I think we're getting daily reminders globally. It doesn't take a lot of skill to cause chaos and destruction. We can just unleash, and that will happen naturally. So it comes back to our own skills of discipline and mindfulness and intention. We don't see it as prevalently, I think, on the singing bowls, because the nature of the bowl is so sensitive that it kind of caps you naturally. You would have to be egregiously out of bounds with like a driver on the fairway,
Yeah.
on your singing bowl to
Yeah.
really like do some damage. Crystal bowls, right? You can see it's a lot easier with crystal bowls. You play too loud, you destroy that sound. The bowl cannot contain it physically, and it shatters.
Yeah.
With these instruments, it's so easy to fake being loud that I think people miss what their intention is. They get on the instrument, they get excited, they start playing, sounds coming off, and they think, oh my God, I've mastered this already. Well, it's like, what? Because you didn't miss it? Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, the fact that your mallet made contact on this doesn't mean that you've accomplished anything worthy of service, or, our mindfulness, or our presence, and, our noble virtues, or whatever we want to, ascribe to this practice. But if we can exercise some discipline and some patience, really connect with the breath, really connect with our intention, you can have an incredibly meaningful practice with a one nice instrument, one beautiful mallet. And the instrument does all the work. I am so lazy. I've been dragging gear across 3 continents my entire life. I don't want to move anything anymore. I don't want to do all of the work. Let the mallet do the work. Let the instrument do the work. Just breathe, baby.
So you've talked about this in one of your videos that I'm not sure everyone has watched, but talk about no punching, maybe just as like of course, if you want to learn to play the gong, we're going to be hosting a gong school, and enrollment will be opening on June 25th. But I think this was like maybe like gong playing 101 that Ben gave us in a recent video that we put out that he made. But would you talk about that a little?
Sure. So the number one thing that I see beyond like just full animal style unleashed chaos on this instrument is if you remember, there used to be these toys. I wonder if they still make them. I doubt it. It used to be called a boxing nun. It was a
Oh yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
puppet,
Yeah, yeah.
and you would put
That
your
was
hand
two
up.
little
Yeah, you would put your hand up up the skirt essentially, and it had 2 little levers like rock up sock'em robots, but with one
yeah.
hand. And depending on how you would manipulate it, the nun would box at you, and it makes this like very direct punching motion, right? And I see this all the time on this instrument, and I don't understand why it, well, I know what's happening. There's just lack of training. But basically, this motion has so much force and energy behind it that the only way for me to achieve this is with a lot of tension in my shoulders, a lot of velocity, and a great deal of distance. When you combine those things with with a sound wave that's mechanical, that is a perfect recipe for harsh, loud, tense sounds. And when I think about what I'm trying to achieve in my nervous system, just in what I'm feeling for myself or for others through a sound bath, through a wellness practice, I don't really want to leave feeling tense, forceful, and chaotic. I want relaxation. I think we want relaxation. If we don't, then we can talk about that. But at least if you know how to create one or avoid the other, then you can repeat that and not have to just like, oh, I hope this works. So what we're going for is a general meditation principle of relaxed body, relaxed mind, as opposed to tense body, tense mind. So we're always trying to relax. And so rather than this punching thing, which blew out my microphone right
Yeah, you
away,
can hear it. Even the microphone doesn't like it.
right away, and I'm not even over my shoulder. This is a small mallet. Like I'm not even into like heavy mallet land yet.
Oh,
It totally changes the energy. Sometimes we need that. Sometimes we want that fire and that purge. We want more focus, more energy,
yeah.
more dynamicism, but not a full hour of that. Get out of here. Like that's all ego to me. So instead of this punching thing, really just nice and relaxed, feeling through. If you've ever done qigong and you're like, as you breathe, kind of bring your hands up. As you exhale, bring your hands down. Like it has this nice flow to it. It's just everyone's working way too hard. I hate to tell you that.
Uh, what is the getting to know you process like when you're standing in front of a gong you've never played?
Sure. That's a wonderful question. So, like singing bowls, this instrument, when it's brand new out of the box, while it's designed to vibrate and resonate, it has to be broken in. So, like a new pair of shoes or a belt, it takes time for it to slowly like open up those channels and get used to how it's going to vibrate and get used to vibrating. And that takes about 2 weeks of kind of regular, moderate plus playing. Like you want the instrument to know that it's loosening up. But
Yeah.
from there, it'll be years and years and years. So some old jazz, drummers will talk about they'll take their cymbals, also made out of bronze, right, and they'll bury them in the backyard for 20 years and let them age naturally. And because it dark, so what happens is the tone will richen in complexity. It will respond faster because it's used to vibrating,
Yeah.
and it will darken in its tone overall. Bronze typically will darken in its tone sonically, also probably physically if you let it age in that sense.
Yeah.
So while we have these discussions about like, how do I clean the gong? It's like you don't have to worry about that. People are bearing these things to try to make the sound better. Like we'll talk about it for sure. Like if that's a priority, absolutely know how to take care of your instrument. I don't want
Yeah.
anyone dropping a jar of honey on it and like, well, Ben told me not to clean it. That's one of those cases that we should probably get that off of there. But although I've never seen an ant gong, that'd be interesting. So your question was related to that, and you said
What's the getting to know you process like
yes.
with you
Thank you.
gone?
Um, in a like, can you clarify that for me? Are we trying to describe like when we're playing, or is this like an energetic getting to know you?
Maybe a little bit of both. So
Yeah,
one
no
of
worries.
the things that we really learned with one of the things that we really, yeah, again, my lens is looking out at the world through singing bowl colored glasses. And so with helping so many people um, get to know a singing bowl, the process is many people come to a singing bowl and they've seen someone like yourself or Jonathan play one online. And so, they imagine the quintessential activity that you do with the singing bowl is you just start playing it around the rim, and it just like the first time you do it, it's just like a recording. And so many times, thousands of times over the last 10 years, we get an email and it's something to the effect of, I got a defective bowl. My bowl isn't functioning correctly. And so there's a process of
Yeah,
while it's not playing a violin or a guitar, it's a very simple musical instrument, and it requires a little bit of nuance because your pedestal bowl that you play doesn't behave the way that the Jambati bowls that I have on my desk right now, and everything is going to be different. So both, like energetically and like technically,
yeah,
you have a new gong in front of you. Like, what is it like for you to push its boundaries? You said in a video that you made also. Um, Playing a gong is akin to having a conversation with a gong.
yeah.
What is it like to become conversant with a new gong?
What a great way to phrase that question. Yeah, thank you. So when I'm picking out a gong, and we had talked about this about if you're interested in gong school and you either don't own an instrument yet or you're thinking about getting one, please don't panic. We will talk about in the class how to select. We'll put
Yeah.
something up ahead of time too to kind of if you're like I'm ready to go now though. Um, Briefly, I would like to mention that a practice that is often overlooked that I love is fostering instruments. So if you know someone who has a gong but isn't using it, or if you've heard a friend say, "Oh, I bought this beautiful instrument last year and I feel bad because I never get to play it." I'll play it. Do you need it played? I'll break it in. I'll record it for you. I'll give you credit. Like, what do you need? Let me borrow it for a little bit, and like you guys can work that stuff out. There are probably percussionists like myself in your area who work at the university or for a local symphony or a high school who probably have these instruments around that aren't being used or might want someone to keep track of things like chords. How are the stands still in shape? Like high schools love having that kind of help. They're normally like, I don't want to pigeonhole. It's normally like a flute teacher who like gets this job and they don't know this world. They don't want to know this world. So to have someone who's like really geeky about percussion who can come in locally for like a trade kind of situation, if you can work that out and then figure out like what you want to build your family, do that. That's an amazing thing. So when you're working with this instrument for the first time, whether you're picking it out or you're just like, "Hi, it's very nice to meet you," I'm checking 3 primary spots, and then I'm going to check exactly what Frank said, those boundaries. So I want to have a soft mallet that will give me a sense of the depth. If I'm playing sort of a grounding expression, I want to know like what is the deepest darkest, softest tone. I'm actually, for this instrument, going to switch gears. And that's going to be really hard to hear. But the other thing that I'm listening for is how long does it go for? Because this is something that I have to take into account. If the sustain on the instrument is drastically shorter than I'm expecting, it's not a problem. These aren't judgments. These are just observations. It lets me know that potentially I may have to employ more rolls or drone style techniques to extend that sound. If the sound is really, really long, that's awesome in my mind. However, it lets me know potentially I might have to involve more muffling and dampening, physical exertion on the instrument, manipulation to dampen those sounds, to shorten them, because it's going to naturally ring very, very long. So that's something that I'm listening for right away. And using the same soft mallet, and maybe I'm making note of adjectives for myself. So I hear dark, very dark. I traditionally like very dark sounds. The contrast being bright, a really bright instrument. So, and generally it's counterintuitive. Generally, the thinner the material, thinner the plate is, the darker it is, and the thicker it is, the brighter. This guy's pretty chunky. But essentially, I'm going to check the center. Sorry, like just off center, halfway, sort of like midpoint, general playing zones. And I'm starting to listen for how does it change between the middle and the kind of halfway point. Because all of our lower frequencies are going to live kind of here in the center on this instrument. This is broadly true, but it's going to vary, yes, no, maybe. At the edge is going to be more of your higher partials. And it's harder to, the soft mallets, it's harder to hear it out there because this is just such a chunky part of where everything is built. Mallets everywhere. Right? So you can hear a really clear difference. Maybe I'll test how do they play together, because they are going to slowly, as you're playing, as you're, the best, my favorite thing to do, it takes so much discipline. We're in a, instant gratification culture. If you take a roll, and it's the same thing if you're singing on your singing bowl, start as softly and as slowly as you can. Put a timer on for 10 minutes and let yourself grow almost so imperceptibly that you don't even notice that it's happening over like this really long period of time. And notice how all of the overtones, as they're slowly activated, start to roll in together. And I talk about this a lot. Like I watch a lot of cooking shows. So you're basically creating this this dashi, this broth, this stew that's just simmering in the background this whole time. And the flavor that we get is how we're combining all these overtones. So if my highs are here and my lows are here, sometimes I want to know, how do they work together? And that's a big spectrum, and I'm barely playing yet. I'm an inch or two off the face right now. So then my next step will be to kind of check a more prominent volume, so maybe 3 inches, 6 inches, 9 inches away, at those three spots. Like, what is, maybe if I turn my microphone down a little bit, what happens if we play that out? And then best case scenario, you have someone with you who could do that for you too, and then you step 10 feet away and listen at a distance, because it's going to sound different as opposed to when you're sitting right in front of it. If you don't have someone with you, you can record yourself and just check in. Again, these aren't judgments. I'm not like, ew, that was really high. But, I just want to know for me, like, okay, that's quite a bit higher than I was expecting. Or, oh, this had this more of this than I was expecting. The next thing that I want to check is, how does it feel when I roll on it? Like, how responsive is it? Pretty responsive. There's always a little bit of lag because it's a huge instrument and it's a big sound wave. So that's something else that we have to take into consideration.
Yes.
As far as energetically, things that you can do that... Oh, I knocked a gong over, but no one heard it.
Oh, no.
If a gong falls in the forest. Anyway, um, two things that you can do that they really enjoy. The first is if you can chant or hum along with it. Bringing your voice to this instrument or your singing bowls when you're like brand new to it is the fastest way you two will get to know each other and lock in. And it is interesting how many people report mystery chants that come in with it. And then this gets into that realm of morphic resonance where
Yes.
I think there are other presences that are there making themselves known to support you in it. So if you can get this kind of like Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. And it's there we go. It's not that we're not tuned into each other, but it takes this. There's like sometimes it just locks in. You're like, ooh, catch one, catch can. And then the other thing that you can do is really just spend time with it every day and record yourself. That's the best way to learn how you're doing on that instrument in a really short amount of time.
Will you oh my gosh, that's great. Yes, recording yourself on the instrument is do you have any tips for people who are I guess shy is the right word. We've just like I just like come across that so much.
Yeah,
Even if they're not going to show anyone. People experience a little bit of like timidity or shyness around recording themselves.
totally. It's terrifying. It's terrifying as professionals. We don't like it. I had to when I was really what we call the circuit. The circuit. It's the audition circuit. So it's basically like when you're if you came out of like a competitive athletic program and you know ODP, the Olympic Development Program. It's kind
Yeah.
of like that. It's like the who's who of like who's trying to get jobs.
Yes.
And we all know each other because it's all by age group. You know, it's generational. So my anyway, that part doesn't matter. But when I was on the circuit and doing this regularly, there are different kind of tactics. You know, we bring in sports psychologists to these conservatories to help us train and like
Oh,
remind ourselves like we are not perfect. We're not machines. I don't want to be a machine. How many times do machines fail? Like I'm not why are we chasing that as a standard? It's a terrible standard. So let's just be human in it. Something my mentor in singing bowls used to say was do your best and let that be enough. And
mm,
whatever that means in that moment. But one thing that you can do is if you have a little piece of masking tape or something, just write audience on it and put that where your camera is. So that no matter
oh,
when you're recording, you just slowly get used to like, oh yeah, there is an audience there. Whether or not they're
yeah.
there is irrelevant, but you just kind of get used to it. Another piece that is important is having that positive self messaging, right? So you have your affirmations that remind yourself. I use them too, even still as a professional. Like Kenny Werner wrote this great book called Effortless Mastery. Jazz piano player. It has this great CD. Very oh my god, anyone in the school would love it. It's 4 meditations on greatness, and it's just like
Oh,
I am great. I am a master. I am great. I am a master. You do a little bit of that, a little nostril breathing, and you go to play. It's like, yeah, you want to like be careful. I am a master, you know, because I am ego.
yeah.
But in the moment, like if you're remembering that fear is just excitement without the breath. So if you're
Oh,
feeling timorous, bring the breath back in. The
yes.
gong is there to support you. Everyone's there to support you. Everyone in this program is there rooting for you. No one is in this school thinking, "Man, I hope they blow it." Like no one wants that. Everyone wants a great experience on these instruments. So
Yeah.
everyone's here rooting for you. Us too. So if there's anything we can do, let us know. But we'll include that in the program as well. I'm gonna make sure that we talk about like what are some visualizations, what are some things that we can do to reinforce um, our own skills and empowerment, and really get that third chakra rocking.
Yes. Okay, so it's great for us to spend a little bit of time. So for I think everyone here has heard, enrollment will open on June 25th, and then class will begin on July 14th. Gong School with Ben Irons as our lead instructor and special guests. I haven't like said to our special guests yet. I want to tell people who you are, so I won't yet tell people who you are unless you know that they want that. But I figure we'll just like hold off on that for now and announcing who our special guest lecturers and presenters will be.
Yeah, I'm just letting people know. Like, I've invited some of my friends and colleagues to join, and these are incredible high level practitioners. And, like, you will love them. They are dynamite humans. They are dynamic personalities, and they bring such a unique lens of like outlets. One of the things that I'm really focusing on is that the established practice, we talk so much in the singable world that we don't really know what the history is. And we're
Yeah.
writing we have some assumptions that we're working from, and I'm not sure if that's good news or bad news, but we're writing the narrative for so many of these practices in real time. And the template that I see as an outlet for these practices, I'm not always convinced is the go-to way. It's just what we've seen so far. And
Yeah.
so not only did I invite friends that I trust deeply and who are just incredible practitioners, but also have a really unique outlet of their approach to this art. And I think having other enrollees, other cohorts see the possibilities for how to craft that practice and kind of one of the reasons people get so nervous is you're trying to be someone you're not. How
Mm.
much it's so much easier. Well, maybe it's not. I don't know. It's scarier, but I think it's easier to be yourself.
Yeah.
So if we can push past that fear and empower you to like make the practice your own, that's where you're going to see the most growth and reward in it.
Oh, yeah. Julie is very excited. Everyone's very excited. So, we are going to do two more like informational style sessions. Well, not informational. One of them Ben will be playing, but I wanted to, in addition to the videos that we've already put out and kind of the information that we've put out on the Ohm Stores page, could you just talk a little bit about what is our vision for what someone will experience should they decide to join us in Gong School?
Yeah. So the broad goal is that mostly when folks approach me and they say, "Hey, I really want to learn the gong," it seems like their goal is to get into a room with other people and present gong in a sound as an offering in some way, whether we
Yeah.
call that yoga or meditation or concert. Um, I think that's a wonderful goal to reach for, and if that's not your goal, that's okay. The skills are going to be the same, whether or not that outlet is the same. Even for myself, as someone who is teaching this a lot and has a lot of experience with this, it's not even my primary outlet. It's just something that I enjoy and I'm glad I know how to do, and I'm happy to teach and share what I know. Very, very happy to do that. But I even have my own specific outlet that is so niche and unique yet. And so if you're not like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to get there, these skills still apply to you, whether it's like, I want to just, be more involved. I want to be more musical. I've got more time. I just feel drawn to it. I don't know why, whatever it is. But my ultimate goal is, because I know the bulk of folks think that there's this outlet at the end of this training,
Yeah.
I would like to empower folks to feel comfortable, whether you have an instrument or not yet, to get one out of the box or out of a case, set it up, know how to sit down, start interacting with it, get that connectivity, make some quality sounds, bring in relaxation, and then feel empowered to develop for yourself either a focus driven or a relaxed driven, so either energetic or more relaxation, expression of a sound offering. And it's not overly long, but if the trick is your part, anyone who's listening will only be as comfortable with silence as you are. So if you can't meditate for 45 minutes, that's fine, but don't try to make other people do that. They're going to feel your discomfort. um, that being said, Frank and I were geeking out that some of the really broad pop science of this, right? So it depends on specific organ systems and things, but broadly, we're producing 3.8 million new cells a second. 3.8 billion? It's something astronomical. I'm going to say billion. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
And every second. So if you can spend 45 minutes in a sound bath with great sounds that are relaxed and are like conducive to our nervous system and that polyvagal system, that is an exponent number of new cells that have been born into that environment that are propagating in that environment and spreading that wellness. And so that's what we're ultimately going for. And then we're going to bring intention to it, and I want to talk about like the adjectives and how do we think about sound and what's our touch like for that. And it's not as heavy as involved as people think. I mean, one of the main pieces that people miss is not playing at the instrument, but through the instrument. You don't hit to the golf ball, you play through the golf ball. I'm not a big golfer. The analogies work really well.
There. I
Yeah.
got it.
I
I'm
don't
with
bring ice cream to my
you.
beard. I play, I eat past my beard.
Bring ice cream through my face.
Yeah, and that's why that's where the flavor is. So it's little things like that that just you wouldn't know if you didn't come from a trained professional background. And yeah.
I think something that I wanted to bring up, and correct me if I'm wrong or it could be stated in a different way. Something that was important as we discussed this was that we weren't going to present to people the playing and the usage of this instrument from an intuitive standpoint, nor from the standpoint of like a weekend course. And so what I wanted to kind of insert personally, and then maybe have you like chat on a little bit, one of the benefits that I see to those of you out there who are feeling intrigued or curious about learning to play the gong is the opportunity to learn from someone like Ben, who is familiar with such structured musical training, but also has seen the dangers of being overcommitted to a perfection seeking process where you will never truly achieve that. And so
Yeah.
one of the reasons I'm so excited for Ben to be leading us in this is because as a professionally trained musician, he understands how to grow and evolve in a very structured process and to create that for you. But because of his training now in things like meditation and hypnosis and vibrational sound therapy, has seen how to create a balanced approach to that. So maybe you can just talk about that, Ben. But I just wanted to say to everyone, like, it's one of the reasons that training with Ben is such an opportunity. It's because he's not winging it and he's not creating this through intuition. He has developed a structured process for you to come from potentially never having played a gong to being able to create a 20-minute gong bath or gong concert or meditative experience, whatever it is that you'd like to call that. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Oh, totally. Thank you. Yeah. So, if, just a peek behind the curtain of like the conservatory. So, if you're studying music and you're a music student, you generally have two tracks that you go. You either go the performance track where you're like, I'm a specialist. I'm going to be playing concerts and performing, composing, that kind of thing. Or a lot of people go the education route, and maybe there's overlap. It's not to say that education can't perform, and not that performers can't educate, right? But it depends on what you want to do. Like, I don't want to spend all day in middle school, and some people, I find that incredibly rewarding, and bless them. So, that being said, those teachers still have to know some of these skills. Like I said, like that flute player that's teaching band, you know? And so one of my roles in the past was when you're a graduate student, a lot of percussion graduate students are teaching percussion to non-percussionists. And this was my role at California State Long Beach when I was in school. So I've already done time in, in my service in the trenches with the non-performers, the non-percussionists teaching. And one thing that really stood out to me from my experience there was this wonderful lecture by one of the piano faculty, and they mentioned that in order to be somewhat, to find success in your studio, it's really important to balance teaching with correcting. And I'd realized that up until that point, I'd gotten almost 100% correcting in my career. And it just left me twisted in knots because instead of this, like, okay, that's all right, we're on a long journey here, let's try that again, or how did that feel, or what do you think, or, it was very like, you messed that up, you're never going to get a job, I don't know why you're here, you're wasting my time, you're wasting your time. It's so, oh, it's awful. It sends me, oh, I can feel the PTSD, so I've been there. I don't want to do that, and we don't need more of that in this world. So having this structure in a way that, I've really gone through pretty much the past decade, exploring like, how do we present this material to non-musicians. My book, Sound Bath Conversations, would have been exponentially easier to write in music notation instead of like, here's how a layperson can read this. But it's
Yeah,
really important because I understand that I got to meet this community halfway.
yeah.
So the idea is that even my student that was here last week, who was from the sound school, she came and took a private lesson, and I'm giving her this exercise that we're working on, and it's not an exercise you would have, I think, found intuitively, but has deep tradition in Viennese timpani playing. So, like, that's where we're getting to this like weird like hodgepodge of information that I'm really enjoying like fusing together. But I gave her this exercise, and as she's working, she's like, "Oh no, that wasn't it. That was bad." And you're like, "Wasn't bad. Wasn't bad." We don't. There's no good or bad in meditation. There's no good or bad in this practice. We have skillful and less skillful. It was a little less skillful, but you know what we're trying to achieve here, and it's going to be less skillful until it is skillful. That's just how this works.
That was really wonderful. And I think a really good look at why learning from Ben is really such a neat opportunity. Is he's going to bring the expertise and the practice of his wide breadth of experience with kind of the measured kindness and compassion that he just shared there with
Mm.
skillful and not as skillful. That was awesome. I want to look, I just wanted to check because I wanted Ben to tell people like when the next um sessions are, and I forgot to look before, so I'm just gonna check. Wait. Okay. So now I have them. I found them easier than I thought. Okay. So thank you all, by the way, for being here with us today. Bob, I know I wasn't like replying to you in real time, but your contributions as always have been like absolutely marvelous, and it's so good to have you here. Ben, there's been such enthusiasm
Oh,
from people sharing many names and faces that we know. So we will be, I think, having a wonderful mixture of Sound School alumni and incredible new students joining us for Gong School. So uh, I'm going to drop a link. So this is just, I think because you're here, you probably already have visited this page, but just so everyone has access to it, I put a link into the comment section here, which is just the link to Gong School and all of the information that we have out on it so far, including several videos of Ben. I did see people asking, will this session that we're on right now be recorded? It has been recorded, so you can either go directly to on the Ohm Store's Facebook page, and you'll be able to see that replay on there. It used to be in perpetuity, but now Facebook has a thing where they delete live videos after 30 days. No worries. I recorded it on Zoom and I will be uploading it so that it can also be watched from that page that I just linked into the comments. The so the question is like, why get on the wait list there, which you can do if you visit that page link, and you can enter your name and email address, and that will just make sure that we remind you about when things are going live. The benefit of getting on the wait list is you'll just be able to have first access when enrollment opens, and a big invitation. This is not like a casual thing, we realize. It is a 7-week course of which you will have lifetime access to the core curriculum. You will be part of a private group of the Ohm Store and Ben and your instructors. And so, what we want to make sure, what I want to make sure, what Ben wants to make sure is that enrollment begins on June 25th, if you're curious. And the course will begin on July 14th. So we've kind of allowed for a longer enrollment period that way. Well, I just figured that like, the culture is like a vacation time kind of at the end of June, beginning of July. And so we wanted to start enrollment for people that knew certainly they wanted to join, but then allow a little bit of everyone to kind of get back from vacation or any time they might be taking away and choose to join us then. So again, the date reminders, June 25th enrollment opens. July 14th, class begins. The big thing that I just wanted to offer an invitation of, Ben and I are going to be doing two more sessions. The first of which I'm going to reference again, the next of which, excuse me, is Wednesday, June 18th. So that is Wednesday of this upcoming week. And this is going to be a presentation of a Gong meditation by Ben that we're going to be doing at 12 o'clock p.m. Central, 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock a.m. Mountain on Wednesday, June 18th. We'll create a Facebook event for it. I will email out a reminder to you all. The last thing before we close, and I ask Ben for any parting thoughts, you can get into a conversation with us. The reason that I brought up about this not being a casual weekend course or something to be taken lightly is that we really are very invested in helping you experience a wonderful Gong training process that will be a personal evolutionary process, and you will be part of an incredible community with wonderful people, many of whom are already part of our Ohm Store community. If you have questions about enrollment, is it right for you? questions about what the curriculum will be, of course, questions about instruments and all of that, get in touch with us and we will take care of you. And the best way to get in touch with us is probably usually to reply to one of the emails that we sent, or to email us at hello@theomstore.co. If all of a sudden you're like, well, I have a question for Ben, we will facilitate connection, if that's something that would be helpful for you. So we've got your back, but utilize us as the kind of the go-between. We will support you in any way we can. All right. So Ben, we'll see you again Wednesday, June 18th, with this upcoming Wednesday of next week at 12 o'clock p.m. Central. Any parting thoughts to anyone considering Gong School, or just anything that you want people to be left with before we see you again next week?
I'm really enjoying this process, and I'm excited to connect with this extension now of the Sound School. And if there's anything in particular that you're like, you know what, I've been to a couple Gong courses and I've just feel let down by this, or I've just really missed this avenue. I don't have all the answers, but I want to, and I'm a nerdy dude. And if there's anything that you're, like Frank said, if you have any questions, just let us know. And I want to make sure that I'm getting the information that everyone needs as well. I want everyone to feel, leave feeling empowered. And but yeah, basically, I want everyone to know, like, I don't want this course to be as technically oriented as the first kind of singing bowl related courses have been. This is not, we're not going to get into the recording side of it. I'm not as interested in that process. There are I can give you resources and we can refer you out. I really want to get into the playing part of it. So if you're like, oh, I just don't want to deal with more recording, I just bought this stuff, don't worry about it. It's not a huge investment. Borrow the instrument. We can make do with one or two mallets. Like, it really is meant to be an incredibly digestible, approachable, yet extremely comprehensive professional offering.
Yes, incredible, incredible. So I think, Ben, something that we can do is maybe before we get started on Wednesday of next week, just give people a little sense of like instruments to start with,
Sure.
and how to select that. I see some questions, Joyce. So we will have so again, the Ohm Store has a very limited Gong availability. And so we are not the only game in town by any means when it comes to a Gong. You do not need by any means to have an Ohm Store Gong in order to participate in this. Joyce did ask the question, when will the new round of gongs from Jose Antonio Alvarez be available? They got sent yesterday from Spain, so we will have like literally like 10 of them available, and they will be available. Let's see, they were sent yesterday. So it kind of depends on customs, but in a week or so. So if you decide that a silver nickel style gong made in the European tradition is the gong for you, we will have those available by Gong School time. But other than that, Ben, why don't we plan to spend a little bit of time Wednesday
Sure.
just starting to guide people on like how to choose an instrument if they're not going to foster one, which I think is an awesome option.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it helps a ton. I mean, I think if you can have an instrument by day one, that's great. If not, it's okay. The things that we're starting on, you can play on a pillow. Honestly, a nice throw pillow from your couch will get you a long way going. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here live. Again, we are open for conversations. If we can support you, you can email us at hello@theomstore.co. We will see you if you'd like to join us Wednesday, June 18th at 12 o'clock p.m. Central, 11 o'clock Mountain, 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. I did it in a weird direction. So thanks everyone for being here. Ben, again, thank you so much.
My honor. And yeah, looking forward to it. And everyone have a beautiful weekend.
Bye, everyone.